Today, we're diving into a really fascinating paradox. We're talking about Japan, a country we all think of as this beacon of futuristic technology, but one that's actually in a mad dash to escape its analog past. So let's get into it and see how Japan is trying to reboot its entire future. Seriously, just take a second. When I say Japanese tech, what's the first thing that pops into your head? I'm guessing it's probably gleaming bullet trains or maybe some incredibly sophisticated robots, right? Or those neon-soaked streets of Tokyo that look like they're straight out of a sci-fi movie. That's the image the whole world has, a high-tech powerhouse. But here's the thing. That image clashes, and clashes hard, with a very different reality. You see, while Japan absolutely has high-speed rail, many of its government offices were, until very, very recently, still relying on fax machines. While they're pioneering robotics, they were also using floppy disks for official business. I'm not kidding. And behind all those futuristic cityscapes is this deeply rooted paper-based bureaucracy. This, right here, is the heart of the analog paradox. So you have to ask, how on earth did this happen? How did the nation that gave us the Walkman fall so far behind in the digital race? Well, the story's a really complex mix of history, culture, and policy. Yeah, it really wasn't just one single thing. It was more like a perfect storm of factors all hitting at once. For decades, the government didn't invest enough in IT. That was combined with this cultural obsession with physical hardware over software. Then you add in a business culture that is famously cautious and avoids risk, plus an aging population that was just, comfortable with the old ways. Put it all together and you have a recipe for stagnation. And here's the fascinating, kind of ironic part. Japan's own success actually became a trap. I mean, they were so unbelievably good at creating physical things, the best TVs, the best stereos, that when the entire world pivoted to software and the internet, Japan's industrial giants were just too slow to change course. And the government wasn't really helping things along. Public spending on modern IT was consistently lower than in other big developed countries. This created this totally bizarre situation where different government ministries had their own separate, ancient systems that couldn't talk to each other. Their solution? Paper. They had to rely on paper just to communicate between departments. And this brings us to the cultural side of things. Let me introduce you to the hanko. Now, this is not just some rubber stamp. It's a personal seal, and it's been used for centuries as the official signature on pretty much everything, from bank forms to major government contracts. Its whole existence is physically tied to paper, so you can imagine that making the jump to digital signatures was a huge cultural hurdle. So for decades, these analog systems just kept on working. I mean, they kind of chugged along. Until, well, they couldn't. The COVID-19 pandemic wasn't just a health crisis for Japan. It was a massive technological wake-up call that showed everyone just how fragile this old system really was. The assessment from inside the government was blunt. Japan's very first Minister of Digital Transformation, Takiya Hirai, he actually called the country's pandemic response a digital defeat. I mean, wow, that's a stunning admission from the very top. And it basically signaled that things had to change, and they had to change now. All right, so to really understand just how bad it got, just look at this number, 46.3 million yen. That's roughly 322,000 US dollars. And that is the amount of COVID relief money that a small town accidentally sent to a single person. And the cause? A bureaucratic mix-up that involved, you guessed it, a floppy disk, and a paper form. It was a hugely embarrassing public failure that just perfectly captured the whole problem. And the problems were just everywhere. Think about this for a second. We're well into the global pandemic, it's May of 2020, and hospitals in Japan were still reporting new COVID cases by handwriting them and then faxing them in. The government had to scramble to create a basic online portal, a tool that most other nations had up and running almost immediately. So that digital defeat, that was a real moment of reckoning. It sparked a brand new, urgent mission, a national race to modernize and finally turn the page to a new digital chapter. The government's response was swift, and it was decisive. In September 2021, it launched the Digital Agency, a powerful new body with a single, massive goal: overhaul the nation's entire digital infrastructure, from top to bottom. And they really didn't waste any time. One of the first things they did was declare a war on floppy disks, literally hunting down and removing over 1,000 government regulations that still required them. They're also rolling out a national digital ID card called the My Number card and pushing hard to move government systems to the cloud so that everybody can finally get on the same page. And this isn't just a government thing either. The private sector got the message loud and clear. With a declining population, Japanese companies realized they just can't afford to be inefficient anymore. So now they're all rushing to adopt digital tools to boost productivity and just stay competitive. So the race is on. But it's not as simple as just buying new computers. Japan isn't just playing catch-up. It's trying to hit a target that is constantly moving as global technology just keeps evolving. And there are still some huge challenges. There's that cultural resistance. Some ministries have actually objected to getting rid of their fax machines. And phasing out something as culturally important as a Hanko stamp, that's going to be a very slow, very delicate process. But even with all these hurdles, the experts are optimistic. The current thinking is that Japan could actually close the major digital gaps with its Western peers in as little as 5 to 10 years. That would be a remarkably fast turnaround. And you can already see the change on the ground. More and more stores are accepting cashless payments. Businesses are launching new online services. There's this feeling of collective readiness now, a real shared understanding that it's finally time to move on from the analog past. Which leaves us with one last big question to think about. After decades of being stuck, and now this sudden frantic push forward, is Japan finally on track to reclaim its spot as a tech leader? Or is it simply catching its breath in a global technology race that, let's be honest, has no finish line?